Chair lays out House Bill 4171 and recognizes Representative Campos to explain.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Crowther and Vice Chair Stuckey and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 4171 relating to county and municipal regulations of automatic external defibrillators. AEDs increase survival rate of sudden cardiac arrest above 90% if used within 1 minute after collapsing. With each minute that passes, the chance of survival drops by 10%, and at 10 minutes, the chance of survival is almost zero. Even the best EMS systems may not respond fast enough to deliver a shock in time for a favorable chance of survival. In 2021, legislation was passed establishing protections for individuals and businesses wishing to install life-saving AEDs. Since that time, the number of AEDs installed has risen, though most cities and counties provide no guidance regarding the types of buildings that should install the devices. The code in most counties and cities leaves out placement of AEDs partly because AEDs did not exist when the codes were first put in place. Just a few Texas cities now have included AED requirements in their code. Businesses, local fire departments, and emergency medical directors have indicated a desire to create a state-driven requirement to put local policies in place. House Bill 4171 would direct that cities and counties, in consultation with the local fire department and emergency medical director, provide direction in their code around the types of buildings that must carry AEDs based on buildings, use, and occupancy. The bill would leave those definitions and requirements to be set by local governing authority. The bill prohibits AED requirements for low occupancy structures and includes a variance of process for small businesses. I am open for questions and respectfully reserve the right to close.
Members, are there any questions for Representative Campos? Okay, if not, we'll proceed to testimony. The chair calls Charlie Skaggs. Can you please state your name, whom you represent, and your position on the bill?
Good afternoon. Charlie Skaggs, represent McKinney Fire Department, and I'm for the bill. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairwoman Niave, Criado, and members of the committee for allowing me to testify on House Bill 4171. Thank you for Vice Chair Campos for the sponsorship of legislation. My name is Charlie Skaggs. I'm the EMS chief for the city of McKinney. Before discussing McKinney, I want to provide a quick overview on cardiac arrest. Sudden cardiac arrest is basically when the heart stops beating, and a heart attack is something that can be a little prolonged and have time to go to the hospital. With cardiac arrest, the heart is no longer pumping oxygen to the brain, and the heart needs to be defibrillated and to restart the blood. With every minute that passes, the patients living through this type of incident drops 10%. In McKinney, our response time is an average of 4 minutes, which is excellent, but not fast enough. We need AEDs in the community so bystanders can respond before the EMS arrives. AEDs are used successfully every day by untrained responders. They push on the on button on the AED and follow the instructions. The AED will instruct the user to attach the pads to the patient's chest, and the AED will analyze the electrical shock inside the patient's chest. It delivers the shock as required. The city of McKinney responds to approximately 160 cardiac arrest incidents each year. In most situations, the patients do not survive. Nationwide, the average is 11% as of 2022. In Texas, the rate is 11 to 15%. In the city of McKinney, it is 36%. 19% of those, an AED was applied. We have achieved an exceptional rate through the American Heart Association, Ready to React training, Resuscitation Academy, and high-performance CPR crews. We provide accomplishments that want to raise the resuscitation rate. We achieve this. We need more AEDs on-site locations that will most likely be the need. It is very similar to a fire extinguisher. We have local codes that tell certain buildings which enables the fire department to address those type of issues, but we don't have requirements for AEDs. Some businesses in our community already have AEDs, but many do not. Some commercial buildings have policies doing precisely what is required by the code, no more, no less. And since AEDs are not required, they do not have them. This bill will enable the McKinney Fire Department to work with City Council and establish reasonable AED requirements for the community. This might be for new buildings or specific size buildings, such as like a fitness center or something like that. The city would like to continue to lead the way to improve resuscitation outcomes, and this bill will help us achieve that. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Tinderholt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here today. I agree. I think this is a great idea, but what do you think that a city would think of incentivizing it instead of mandating it?
Never thought about that.
Well, it's just something to think about because I normally hate mandating something where businesses and individuals are going to have to pay. And I almost think incentivizing it is a better way to grow a program like this statewide. I think AEDs do indeed save lives, but I was just wondering what you thought about incentivizing it at the.
That's never even crossed my mind, but that's actually a pretty good point.
And what I mean by incentivizing it is the city or county could do things for the businesses that do it to try to encourage more people, even those low occupancy buildings, the places that maybe are exempt from the bill right now. I just feel like doing something to incentivize helping people save lives and live might be a different potential. And I'll probably ask the author of the bill the same thing. I just wanted to ask you both the same idea.
That's a good angle. I never thought of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any other questions for this witness? Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against House Bill 4171? If not, Chair recognizes Representative Campos to close.
HB 4171 will allow counties and cities to direct where the life-saving AED should be carried. With that, I respectfully ask for your support. And Tinderholt, Representative, I appreciate your comment.
The reason I say
Chair
that is.
recognizes Representative
Yeah,
Tinderholt.
thank you for recognizing me. The reason I say that is I normally don't like to mandate stuff like this
Right.
because it could be a huge cost to a business. But to be honest, I think your idea is amazing. I have heart issues. I'd really like to see these everywhere, but I don't want to mandate it. And so I'd kind of like to find out what you think about maybe potentially modifying it. It might be too late for you to do that. But to get my support, I think it would be helpful to make it not mandatory, but to incentivize it, because then I think we get all of the places that are in your bill that are exempt.
Right.
We actually encourage them to do it, so they're everywhere. So it's just a thought. It's a different way of thinking about it.
No, absolutely, and I appreciate that, and I will definitely take that into consideration, and we can talk more about it, because I would really like to do what I can to get this passed, because I think it's much needed, especially with the way that times have changed after COVID, and first responders, it takes sometimes a little bit longer than what it should, and so I just think it's much needed, so.
I think we could get more of them in the communities if we incentivized it instead of mandating it.
Absolutely.
Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Chair recognizes Representative Jones.
I'd be curious to know where the incentives would come from, like if it would be city. I don't think you're asking for the state to do it.
It's something that I would consider in talking to the local government and just kind of get an idea of what they think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll share that with you as well. Thank you. for
Okay,
that.
thanks.
Thank you, members. Any other questions for Representative Gilmore? Chair recognizes Representative Rosenthal.
First, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you
Been a
again.
long time. I think she's following me around. This is the second committee we've been in
Stop.
together. So actually, seriously, it's super important. I carried a bill for a constituent last session whose child died from sudden cardiac arrest on a track and field practice at school. This is a teenager in high school. So it does happen fast. And a little bit of training and the right equipment could avoid the death. We actually lose a child a month in the state to this, is my understanding. Any idea how much these things cost, the defibrillators?
They can range like $1,000, and they're pretty compact. I mean, with technology now, things are a lot better, and so it's just it's a pretty compact little like a toolbox, and so yeah, I mean, I think it'd be great to have them.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I'm actually trained to use them.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing the bill. I think it's important. And awareness of sudden cardiac arrest syndrome
Absolutely.
is super important. People do die really fast without warning.
And it seems like now, all ages, it more so, especially with COVID and how it's affected people. So, yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's much
thank you
needed.
for
So
that. Thank you again.
I would greatly appreciate y'all's support.
Thank you, members. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Representative Campos. House Bill 4171 will be
Thank
left
you,
pending at
Chairwoman.
this time.
Thank you.